I probably don't need to tell you that at times trout love bright, shiny chironomid pupa patterns. But there's also times when duller patterns work, particularly early in the emergence when the pupa are staging just above the bottom and haven't gathered that gas that gives them that shiny appearance. A dull, thread-bodied pupa is often the answer to this puzzle. Let me show you what I mean. So let's tie a dull pupa. The hook I'm using is a Daiichi 1760, size 14. You could tie them as big as a 12, 14, 16, down to 18. I'm using a white 3/32 brass bead. For the tying thread on the body on this, we're using some classic waxed. I'm going to use some of the 12-aught in gray. Just going to get that started right behind the bead. Get a good thread base started. Trim away our excess. Give that bobbin a counterclockwise spin. And build a nice base wrap to provide some traction for the rest of the fly. So we're just going to take this and go right into the bend just past the back of that crushed down barb. Stop there. And we're going to tie in a piece of clear buzzer wrap. This is going to be the overbody, and what this does is it protects the thread color, because depending on the coating you use, it can darken the thread color. So by tying in this clear buzzer wrap, we're putting a little coating, protective coating, over our thread body that we're going to tie in and form, and the thread rib on this fly, and keep our color true. So we're going to get that all the way back up, and then we're going to tie in our ribbing material. So for the rib on this fly, I'm going to use some of the Uni 6/aught in wine. You could also use red. And the reason I like to use this thread is because it's twisted. It won't flatten when I wind it. You could certainly use another ribbing, like some of this classic wax, for example. But the beauty of the classic wax is it's a flat thread, and it will start when you wind the ribbing forward. Will start to flatten out and just make your rib. You want this rib to be twisted, almost like wire. So that's why we're using this. So it's a very subtle rib. So we're just going to tie this in, get that right up to the side of the hook, hold it in place on the side of the near side of the hook, like so. Get a couple of wraps in, and then I'm actually going to pull on it so it disappears down, and then we're going to give that a spin, and then we're going to wind this thread back, trying close touching turns. And secure this ribbing material all the way down near where we tied in the buzzer wrap. I might stop a couple of turns short. Then I can throw a couple of turns in behind. Like so. And then we're going to come forwards. Nice tight turns we're trying for here. It's 12/aught, so nice and thin. I can have real control over my building up the body. So we're going to go down. All the way back up to the rear of the bead. So we're just trying to place our thread wraps, very controlled, and try to get as much coverage as we can. So counter spinning that bobbin takes the twist out of it. And because we're using the 12-aught, we have the luxury of being able to go up and down the shank a few times to help build up a nice, neat taper on this fly. So we're just going to wind that forward like so. And we'll go up and down a few times on this to build up that taper. So if there's a little bit of red, a little bit of that space showing through, it's not the end of the world, because we'll have a couple of chances to cover it up. So we're just going to keep going down. So I'm going to go maybe a third, then go back. And I'm going to spin again, go down about a half, spin again, flatten. And of course you could always also use 8-aught as well. I tend to use the 12-aught on my smaller sizes, 14s, 16s, 18s. Just because I have way more, I'm prepared to sacrifice some thread in order to have more control when I'm forming my body. But that choice is entirely up to you. If you can do it with 8-aught, then do it. So we're just going, back that off a little bit. Just being deliberate here. Usually I'd be tying a lot faster if I'm doing this for myself. But just to illustrate what we're trying to accomplish, I'll slow the pace down. And I'm happy with that. And we're just going to whip finish, because we're going to introduce a darker color to suggest the wing pads. So we've got a few little strands sticking up. They're not going to be a real issue because we're going to wrap that buzzer wrap over top. So now we're going to attach some 8-aught rust. This coloration does a great job suggesting the wing pads of the pupa, the coloration. So we just get that tied in, again with minimum of wraps. Trim away that excess. Go back about, well, just slightly less than the length of the hook. Then we're going to come in with our ribbing material. And the target is trying to get 7 body segments. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, perfect, 7. And again, this is a very subtle pattern designed to imitate those staging pupa that are still kind of dull. They haven't built up the gas under their exoskeleton, so nice and dull and somber. And then we're just going to take our tying thread, a few more wraps, and then take our buzzer wrap. Again, this is just kind of, think of this as a protective coating. So when we coat this fly with our final body coating, we're not going to negatively influence the coloration of the thread. A lot of times when you put a body coating on, depending on what you're using, nail polish, superglue, UV resin, it can darken the material, the thread color, which defeats the purpose of being or choosing the thread color you want. And now we're just going to again spin this bobbin counterclockwise, and then happy with that thorax. 2 or 3 turns right at the rear of the bead. Snug that good and tight, trim it, Now we're just going to add coating, and I'm going to use some brushable super glue because I'm trying to keep this dull and not too shiny. So I'll just put a little coating on, and the super glue seems to dry. It dries a little duller, if you will. Like a little bit of residue on there. But that's good enough to go sit in the fly box and wait for its big day on the lake. So there you have it, the Dull Pupa. Thank you, Brian Chan, for introducing me to this pattern.